Well, Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, delivered a speech at the DNC that was mostly about Trump. I'll play it, give my commentary.
Hello, Democrats! Are you ready to elect Kamala Harris, the first president of the United States? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Friends, like so many of us, my grandparents came from Ireland as teenagers with nothing but hope in their hearts and fire in their bellies. They built their lives in the promised land of Buffalo, New York. A union card meant good work at the steel plant. The steel plant that lifted my parents from living in a trailer to the middle class. Like other families in my blue-collar community, they believed that with hard work, they could build a better future, not just for themselves, but for those with less hope and less opportunity. I'm proud of my roots and the values I learned: grit, determination, compassion. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz grew up with those same values. And those values have always defined the people of my state. Well, most of us anyway. Donald Trump was born a New Yorker, but ended up a fraud, a philanderer, and a felon. He wasn't raised with the New York values that I know. He never had to worry about childcare costs or groceries or rent. He never had to worry about anything or anyone but himself. Trust me, America. If you think you're tired of Donald Trump, talk to a New Yorker. We've had to deal with him for 78 long years. The fraud, the tax dodging, the sham university, the shady charities. We've seen him stiff contractors, rip off workers. He abuses women, brags about it, and then takes away their rights. And New Yorkers are sick of it. It's no wonder he had to flee to Mar-a-Lago. Sorry about that, Florida. Sorry about that. Trump hasn't spent much time in New York lately, except that is to get convicted of 34 felonies. And that's just fine with us, because New York's motto is Excelsior, ever upward. And Trump takes us ever downward. Because here's what Trump never understood. America isn't a luxury good to be bought and sold by the privileged and powerful few. America, we just can't afford another 4 years of that. We have kids to feed, roads to build, jobs to create, real problems to solve. And we need leaders who can get it done. Trump talked big about bringing back manufacturing jobs. But you know who actually did it? President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Kamala. And look no further than the city of Syracuse, where a company called Micron is building a $100 billion microchip factory with union labor. It's the largest private investment in American history, and it's going to create 50,000 good-paying jobs. The Biden-Harris administration has made the most significant investments in our economy in generations. And as president, Kamala Harris will continue to build an opportunity economy for all. My friends, history's watching us. Together, we must protect abortion rights. Together, we must protect the middle class. Together, we must protect the American dream. And together, we must elect Kamala Harris President of the United States. Thank you.
You know, there's always a part of these speeches that can be unintentionally funny. Toward the beginning, she says, who's ready to make Kamala Harris the first? She means to say the first female president, but she says first president, so she makes her sound like she's going to be the inaugural holder of that office. Just a nice little misstating on her part. Now, I can understand why it's tempting if you are the chief executive of a state and the state that the other party's nominee is from, to want to draw a contrast between yourself and them, right? To say, hey, I know this person better than most people because I'm from the same state as them. But I just don't think it lands. You know, she talks about New York values. I'm like, okay, grit, determination. You know, New York, I mean, we all remember after, 9/11, just how determined they were to rebuild their city and a lot of the heroism that was shown by the people that live there. So, it's nothing that I have a problem with in and of itself. But then she goes on to mention that Trump never had to worry about anyone but himself. And, America, you think you're sick of Trump? Try asking a New Yorker. We've had to deal with him for 78 long years. Like, listen, again, the problem here is that you're not criticizing any of his actual malpractices when you say 78 long years, as like basically you are insinuating the idea, even if this may not be what she's trying to say, that just by living in New York, because Trump was not a real estate person or even a public figure until probably like the 80s, the 70s. So she is saying that just by him being born there and living there, it's like a problem. It's something that we're so sick of, and it's so obnoxious, and we're tired of it, and we're more sick of it in America because America's only had to deal with him for, the last 9 years or, however long it's been since he first ran for president. But I just think it's tacky. The way that was framed. She brings up his criminal charges, which, that's pretty good for that audience. But again, Trump supporters are not concerned about those whatsoever. They've convinced themselves that it's all just this big witch hunt by the Democrats to make him look bad. It's really not anything. I don't know. I guess this speech is just so disappointing because, again, with her and AOC, right, I expect the people from his state to probably have some good lines. But they're kind of just flailing around. Like, she mentions that Harris will protect reproductive rights, and she's going to build infrastructure. I'm like, okay, yeah, a little bit of Harris praise at the start and stop, but it's mostly just Trump in the middle in New York and the values that he does not have, supposedly. And the audience ate it up. But I've never, because I've seen Hochul give like press conferences. I've never seen her give a speech, at least when she's trying to light up a place in terms of, being electrifying. And after seeing her speak and just, just the very empty rhetoric that was there for most of it, I really honestly do see now why she barely won election to the governorship of a blue state as a Democrat. Like, I understand now in big, bold letters why the Republican she ran against only lost by like 6 points. Like, it makes a lot of sense when you just see the vapidness of her delivery and really, like just the emptiness of everything related to this address. But But I hope the Democrats have some better speakers because this is not doing it. Even if you want to say this is just for the Democrats who are already not going to vote for Trump, I just every surrogate seems to do this thing where they put words in Harris's mouth. Like I've never seen Harris, besides that one economic speech that she gave since running for president, ever talk about crumbling infrastructure, or how she's going to like build on attempts by Biden to actually do. I mean, just I don't see that because her campaign for the whole month that it has existed has mostly been just the feel good campaign. People go around giving speeches about just generic platitudes. Um, there's not really any policies specifics, and this seems to be an inherent problem with a lot of politicians, Hochul included, because instead of telling us about, you know, again, anything that actually would get people to not vote for Trump. Hey, did you know that he had net job outsourcing? Just stuff like that. They don't get into it because they're not interested in actually having a policy based critique of this man. It's all characteristics and psychobabble, and I just don't have the patience for it. And apparently, most of New York, a good chunk of New York, doesn't either because she just barely won that governor race. She came to power because the previous governor Cuomo disgraced himself to where he had to resign, and you can really see how much she struggles to just keep in office over there. Like through this address, you see the lack of leadership qualities.